The holiday season can be full of parties with friends and family and food, and all of that indulging may leave us feeling a little bloated and a little bit uncomfortable. So we have registered dietitian Madeline Morrish from A Little Nutrition joining us now with some great advice and some tips on how we can be a little bit gentler to our bellies this season. And when we're talking about bloat, it can be incredibly uncomfortable at times.
Well, absolutely. Very uncomfortable. You know, you almost feel too stuffed or you don't really want to move. Not exactly anything that we want to experience.
And what is that bloating sensation, obviously, than just eating a ton of delicious food?
Yeah. Well, that bloating sensation is actually when we feel more increased pressure in the abdominal area. So you can feel it anywhere along the digestive tract as well, but it's usually gas development that's occurring.
So nothing, I'm assuming, harmful, just something a little bit annoying. But thankfully, you've got some great news. There are some things we can do to not get to that point where we are full of gas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have some three tips today just to reduce that bloat, especially to help with that gas. So my first recommendation here is to actually slow down and savor your food. It's meant to be enjoyed anyway, right? So really what happens is if we are, maybe eating when we're distracted or we're really living in this go-go-go society where we're in a rush, then we can potentially be overeating. So eating past our fullness. And so what can happen is that when we think about bloating, it's when our body's actually having some difficulty digesting some foods as well. So it's having difficulty breaking it down. So if you're eating past your fullness, then we're kind of overwhelming our digestive tract, leading it to potentially make us have that bloating feeling, especially during the holiday season.
So I'm thinking, do not sit there in the afternoons answering emails and eating chips at the same time.
Yeah, might go pair with that.
Yeah, there you go. Is there a recommended time that you should, let's say we sit down to have our lunch, is there like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Can you give yourself kind of a gauge?
Yeah, well, I think as a rough suggestion, because everyone's a little bit different as well, so it might range from maybe 15, 20 minutes to at least allow yourself to have that time to just focus on the meal, maybe take away any of those distractions, like eating from the TV or, our work desk and that kind of thing.
Savor it, enjoy it. What would be step number 2, Madeline?
Yeah, so my second recommendation here is actually to boost your diet and include more foods that are rich in fiber.
Okay, so fiber.
Yeah, so actually a common cause of bloating is when we're actually feeling constipated. So fiber really helps to stimulate the gut and get things going so we can remove and gas more effectively as well.
Okay, that makes sense. You do have beans, which are a huge part of my diet, but beans, I feel like they get a bad rap sometimes as they create gas.
Well, and depending on the amount of fiber and how much you're typically consuming, if you're going from maybe, like most Canadians are only eating about half the amount that they need in a day, that when you all of a sudden have something that's a really good source of fiber, it can be difficult to digest because your body's not quite used to it, or maybe we're eating quickly or whatever the case is.
Okay, so slowly add more fiber-rich foods. What would be your last tip for us?
Yeah, so the last tip here as well is that, after we've kind of looked in being consistent with the fiber intake, so for women being, 25 grams on a regular basis, men about 38 grams, and, having those whole grains or maybe nuts or seeds that we have here as well, is that I would actually take, to understand your own triggers.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually keeping more of a food and symptom journal to actually identify for you what are some of your personal triggers for bloating, because everyone's quite different, especially where they can experience it. So for some individuals, they might notice that when they're journaling that, oh, I have a high fat meal, oh, that means I'm going to be a bit bloated because, it's just, it slows down how things are being digested as well. Or for some individuals, they might be more sensitive to something that we call FODMAPs. So those are for fermentable carbohydrates that we can find in certain even nutritious foods. So even apples would be a big source of FODMAPs.
Oh.
And also sugar alcohols. So sugar alcohols are actually an artificial or a sweetener that can be added to a lot of no sugar products. So things like even our gum can be a source of those and can contribute to some bloating, even like artificially sweetened or no sugar added beverages.
Makes total sense. Keep a list, introduce some more fiber, slow down, enjoy your food. If folks out there want more, need more, where do we find you online?
Okay, well, you can actually go to www.alittlenutrition.com, and then you have lots more information there to contact us, even if you need more assistance with, identifying your triggers as well.